Hello everybody, John here, and today onto the garage I'm going to give you the 57,000 mile review of the faults and issues on my Navara Np300. At the moment I am just inserting a rubber strip into a roof rail I've fitted, which is going to be used as a basis for building a light bar. Where I've been driving it around without the rubber strip in, just to see how it is, and it makes a really irritating whistling noise. So I'm fitting that now, see how that goes, because obviously when I put lights on it it's going to be noisier anyway, but I couldn't tolerate the whistling, so this is just an emergency experiment. We'll try that for the next few miles. Right, so what's it been like living in the Navara over the last 20,000 miles or so? No breakdowns, no disasters, but we are starting to accumulate a few issues. One that's really irritating me is that. Now, yes, this is the UK and we do have salted roads. This has been through one winter. I think for a one-owner vehicle that's been well looked after, there's not been off-roaded in the true sense of the word, I think that's quite poor to have that degree of, albeit surface rust on a vehicle that is essentially only 18 months old. I blame it on lack of a wheel well liner rather than a particular design issue with the chassis or coatings or anything else. But it's all very exposed and it's going to look very grim very quickly. I'm not a doom monger. I don't think this is going to lead to the chassis cracks and splits that we've heard of in the past. But it certainly doesn't help the argument when you're down the pub talking about it with your mates, who might say, I told you that vehicle was going to break in two. And I would have thought that Nissan would have made more of an effort when you consider they had some reputational issues connected with the previous generation model. So, irritating, definitely. Is it causing me a problem? No. But I don't like it. Front end, obviously less significant in terms of issues, but yeah, it's just general light corrosion, mostly on items like the kingpins rather than anything bodywork related. The new Avon tyres holding up very well. I doubt they're going to last as long as the Continentals, because I can see the wear on them after about they've been on for about 15,000, and Continentals were looking very fresh at that stage. Well, you'll all be pleased to hear that zipping along at 60, we no longer have a shrill whistling from the roof bar. So, aside as that is from the main mission of today, the good news is I can carry on building myself a little light bar to play around with. Biggest challenge with that actually is how we're going to do the cabling from probably the engine bay and the interior to get the switch gear in and to get it out there when I don't want to drill any holes in the bodywork. So that's going to be an interesting little project. So keep tuned for more on that soon. So back to the Navara and how it's treating me. So it recently got its nominally 55,000 mile service. Took it along to Exeter Nissan again. many hundreds of miles from where I live, but convenient for where I'd been working. And as always, I was treated rather well. I was given a courtesy car. The place was very clean, service was very prompt. Nothing to complain about in terms of the customer experience part of that. With one small caveat, and that is, when I got the car back, within, I don't know, I'm going to say 100 miles of driving it, I got an alert that the filter needed changing. Air filter, I'm guessing, it doesn't actually say. Little graphic comes up on the TFT screen between the two instruments, and that's associated with a mileage counter. And the air filter has been changed, so there's not an issue there, but they didn't reset the counter, and it's minor, you know, I know how to reset it, but yeah, just smacked of lack of paying attention. The infotainment system went really wrong on me on about 3 occasions, once significantly. So I've had a couple of times when the sat-nav just would not engage and do its thing, and I've ended up doing a trip using the force, if you like, because to be honest, I couldn't afford the time to pull over, turn the engine off, get on with resetting it, and I just had to use old school to get where I was going. Irritating, but not caused a huge issue. I've also had occasion when it will not hook up to the Bluetooth on my phone, despite the fact that 10 minutes earlier it had been hooked up to the Bluetooth on my phone. There was nothing wrong with the phone, it's pre-paired, everything else. It just wouldn't have it, wouldn't connect. I had one very significant session, as I said, when for a period of about 4 days, essentially this didn't work. I could get the radio to happen on it and the CD player, but phone didn't work, the sat-nav didn't work, it was constantly trying to load and upload, and I was at the point of saying, well, you know, I've got to take this to a dealer and get it sorted out, when it sprung back into life. So it's definitely not the most robust or reliable pieces of equipment. What I continue to love about this device here is it's connected to the 360-degree cameras. It is brilliant for that. The image on the screen is good enough. But in other regards, this has somewhat gone down in my estimation. As I've mentioned in, I think, my previous running report, it had started to, let's call it, hunt a little. If you started up from cold, move away immediately. Low speed maneuvering and hitting the brakes tend to make it feel like it was going to stall, almost like the auto choke hadn't kicked in. Something wasn't not right. Very lumpy running when cold and moving slowly. That has continued. It disappeared for a little while. I can no longer say I'm blaming it on the cold weather, because it's the middle of summer and it's quite a regular occurrence. Doesn't last very long and it doesn't cause me huge grief, but it is there, and I have mentioned it to the dealer prior to the service. They've looked at it. There's no issues to find, no problems, no codes. Bring it in if it gives you problems in terms of it stalls or it giving you something more significant. Not desperately helpful, but I'm not going to criticise too heavily. I know how hard it is to solve a problem that isn't there. Not a developing fault, because it's always been there. It's just starting to really nag at me. We've mentioned before that the gap between the side of the seat in this top of the range Techna trim vehicle and the door panel, that you would reach into that gap to get something from the door bin, is too small. Practically every time I reach into that door pocket to get a bottle of water or to put something in it,
I adjust my seat. They're not memory seats, and yeah, it's a very first world problem, but it irritates me to death. I like to get my seat just so, and every time I reach into that pocket, I'm nudging one of the switches and moving it around. So it's definitely a design flaw rather than mechanical breaking down type issue. But the longer you drive the vehicle, the more it becomes an issue. It's been quite hot of late. I've had the sunroof fully open quite a lot of the time, and on one occasion, just because I'm so used to the roof being open, as in fully slid back, I pulled up at a services and thought, oh, I know, I'll close the blind to keep some of the heat out. I forgot that the glass was open, pulled the blind forward, and it came off its runners, and the blind, that is, not the glass, and I had to do a lot of jimmying, shaking to get it back into position. That's made me super wary of the blind now. It's something that I could have pulled out and completely out of its channels if I wasn't as lucky as I was. So pulling this across with the roof open is a bit of an issue. The seatbelt monitoring system is a little too sensitive. At the moment, I've got a set of headphones sat on the passenger seat and a plastic bag that contains my sandwich, and I'll be driving along, maybe hit a couple of bumps, and I'll hear the beep 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 go off for the seatbelts. I think that's quite a design flaw, or something's become detached, or the switch has become loose for it's supposed to detect a human sat there and say basically that you should have your seatbelt on. If it's detecting my sandwich and a pair of headphones, then something's not quite right. Quite often I park this vehicle up on my drive on a Friday evening, and I won't touch it again until early on Monday morning, because when I'm at home I've got other vehicles, I tend to drive them rather than this that I drive very often during the week. And I would say 50% of the time, when I release the handbrake on a Monday morning and pull away, the handbrake is actually locked on, as in the rear brakes have bound to the drum, and the vehicle has to work hard enough to dip the rear a little bit in order to break the lock between the brake pads and the drum. And bear in mind, I've just had a service and those brakes have been checked out and they've got more than 50% of their life left in them. That's a little odd. Yes, I live very close to the sea, I can hear the sea, but I wouldn't imagine you could blame salt air for that. You know, I don't think they're corroding onto the drums in the space of 2 days. And I'm not wading through deep water and therefore contaminating the brakes or doing anything like that. And equally, I'm not in the habit of pulling the handbrake on particularly hard. Of the 4 vehicles we have in the fleet at the moment, there's only one manual, so you know I'm very aware of the fact that this ain't going anywhere. It's an automatic. When it's in park, it's not rolling, so I'm not somebody who yanks on the handbrake in fear of the thing rolling away. In terms of design flaws, there's one very significant one in my opinion. Others, you guys may think this is a nothing, but it really wound me up when I discovered it. Whilst filling the tank with diesel, I let the fuel come up the pipe. You know, it shuts off the trigger, and so you get a lot of foaming fuel in the neck. And like most vehicles, there's a return to tank pipe in there and a vent pipe to basically stop some of the gurgling and splashing and deal with the fuel. And if your fuel spills out the neck a little bit, it goes into a little drain pipe around the filler neck, and goes away, and in most vehicles that goes back to the tank or somewhere under the vehicle. I was horrified to find that splashback was dealt with and ducted away straight onto the rear tyre, onto the tread. I've never seen that in any car ever, not on purpose. It started me thinking, I have an issue with the fact that they don't provide a wheel arch liner at the rear, a plastic wheel arch liner to protect the chassis. Is it a case of the vehicle was designed with that in mind, and the exit for that pipe should pour onto the wrong side, the outside of a wheel arch liner, and therefore divert the fuel either in front of or behind the tyre? Or is this just really bad design? You pour diesel onto a tyre, you're making it slick. And yet, I only got a patch 6 inches in diameter on my tyre, but surely that can't be good practice when you have the choice of where that pipe ends up. So yeah, really not pleased with that at all. So when you combine those items, a little bit of the shine has gone from the car for me. But I'd like to rebalance that before we get on to the actual nature of the service, what was done, how much, etc. And say that as a tool, I've still got to say it's pretty flawless. I'm used to very comfortable vehicles. That's not bragging or anything. You know, my previous car to this was a Jaguar XJ, so I know what comfortable feels like. I still continue to be amazed at how this commercial vehicle, this pickup truck, transports me regularly 300 miles twice a week, every week in a single journey, and I get out of it relatively fresh. It's really comfortable, and that's a combination of the seats and the ride. Yes, it can get a little bit jiggly. It is a commercial vehicle at lower speeds like we're doing now, but as soon as you're rolling, this is a really, really good ride. And I don't just mean compared to commercial, but it's a good ride, full stop. It continues to be a quiet vehicle. I think an economical vehicle. It has never let me down. We've had some niggles, I've described some of them. And the running costs of it are very good. It's not costing me a lot in fuel, it's not costing me a lot in tax, it's not costing me a lot in insurance. The consumable costs have really been the sort of stuff you can predict. So that's tyres, it's brakes, it's discs, it's servicing items. As a vehicle to drive around and do long distances in, it continues to impress, amaze and make me smile. The negatives of using a vehicle like this for anything other than its huge load lugging capacity for weight and towing continue to be, it's a bit of a pain to park, massively aided by the 360 cameras, which are a dream, but you still got to find that space and you're still got to get out the doors. And the dirty little secret of all pickup trucks, which is any decent saloon car and every decent estate car can carry a longer item from your average DIY store than a pickup truck that's got a canopy on the back like mine. So practicality is somewhat marred in that regard. Other than that, I'm very pleased with my choice. I still think at the time of purchasing I made the right choice between the various options available in the UK for a double cab pickup. Would I select the same vehicle again today if I was trading it in today? I would definitely be considering one of these. I would want to test drive the Ford Ranger, which has recently been upgraded and is also available in a Raptor form. It's not a snarling Raptor like anybody in the States would be familiar with. This is an Ecotech Raptor. I'd be intrigued to drive the Mercedes because it is this vehicle, but with a lot of extra tweaking and tuning on suspension and a much better Mercedes interior. But I don't think there's anything that would make me buy one, certainly not new, just because they're about £10,000 more for a nicer interior and a slightly more refined suspension. And just remember, I'm saying I've got no issues with the suspension on this. The Volkswagen Amarok V6 obviously appeals. I like the idea of a 6-cylinder motor, but we are talking quite a lot extra to get that. Mitsubishi L200 is an excellent vehicle. I'm really loving those, but the latest version I've not seen in the flesh, and in the photographs it has, let's call it, challenging looks. It's quite out there, and I may warm to that. I like things that are different, but that is quite extreme. And the Toyota Hilux, I'm always going to have a hugely high regard for as a fan of quality automotive build. I'm not saying that the factory that particular vehicle is assembled in is better than anybody else's, but the fact that it's a Toyota means it will be designed to have build quality. So I've never owned Hilux. My dad has owned a Hilux. The current model that is just being superseded has a very unusual face, in my opinion. It does look like a boat, and I just don't like it. As the new model emerges, that might be something I'd go and look at. But on balance, the only reason I'd be having anything other than another Navara is for the novelty of it. You know, try something different, have a different experience, and do some more interesting reviews with you guys. So all in all, and issues aside, this has been good, and it continues to be good. Okay, so we've come indoors now, so I can share with you some of the numbers associated with this. We open up the little pack, and if we head straight for the main event, if you like, just make sure that's in screenshot for you. We were £308 for the service, and I don't think that's too shabby. I've already done a little bit of maths, and I know that if I'd have done this service myself to the same extent, I could have done it for about £100. So from that point of view, it's obviously a bad deal. But there's one item on here that has a value which you can argue about that I couldn't have given it. Plus time and effort, etc., etc. And keeping that original dealer stamp in the book might give it a little bit of extra value later on. So what have we got? First of all, complimentary wash and vacuum. I've got to say that is more than just a chucking a soap and bucket over it. The vehicle was definitely given some sort of wax, and the interior was very clean despite the fact I'd left all sorts of junk in there. So there was quite a lot of effort. Interesting, I give it a RRP, that's a retailer's recommended price of $19.99, but it's free. Complimentary safety inspection and complimentary e-vision video report. The e-vision video report is basically the mechanic using his camera phone to show you the tyres, so that you know that he's actually checked the depth, and show you the brake discs while the wheels are off the vehicle, just quoting the percentage worn. Again, it's just evidence that something's happened. There's no real cost to them, but it was nice anyway. Carry out 54,000 mile service, they've listed it out on here. Minor service due to mileage, major due on next service at 72,000 or 96 months. I've got a £2 charge for disposal of oil, which is all fair game, I think, in the UK. There's not an issue there. Air filter kit was £21.40, not too extravagant. Screen wash, £1.68, not going to argue with that. Element oil filter, £9.27, actually quite a good price. Fluid .4, 1 litre, so that is brake fluid, £9.21. I changed the brake fluid when I changed the brakes, so I know there was no issue with the brake fluid, and it certainly wasn't low. That's come up a couple of times and has made me think, I wonder if they actually use anything. I do not imagine for a moment they've drained down my brake fluid. I should really challenge that, but in the grand scheme of things, I'm not that fussed. But it is £9.21, but I don't know what they've done. Oil, 6 litres of Castrol Edge, and they've charged me £39 for that. And I think that's actually really good value. Obviously, it's tank fed rather than the individual containers that I would have collected. But they've certainly not ripped me off on oil, assuming they're using Castrol Edge. And then we flip over, and the last thing on here is a seal for the oil drain, so sump plug for everybody else, 33p, which is quite a bargain, I think. So that gives us £308.46. I said there was a extra element in here, and that is RAC, 12 months complimentary Nissan roadside assistance, recommended retail price £134. Now, I've actually got RAC cover individually because I've got other vehicles. So this isn't something I need, want, or have asked for. However, if you didn't, I think this is quite the bargain. Basically, every time you take your Nissan back to your Nissan dealer for its service and you don't miss the services, they renew this RAC cover. And I have checked it out. It's significant cover, you know, its value at £134 you could argue about, but it's the RAC, a well-regarded outfit in the UK. They do charge that sort of money for roadside assistance. So that's a real giveaway if you haven't already got cover. So worth bearing in mind. If I just have a look at the other documentation that they provided us with, we've just got this huge checklist of things that they have checked. Everything's ticked off of it, with a few exceptions which are to do with manual transmissions. Again, got to take it on faith that that's been done. There's a service record just giving the date and the mileage. This document has listed the services that I've had. So I had a service at 18,000, 37,000 and 55,500. Each is listed as an 18,000 mile or 24 month service. I drive big miles, so 24 months. The gap between the first two is 6 months and this one 7 months. So it's being serviced every 6 to 7 months. And this little safety check that they talked about, but came along with the video thing. Basically, again, a big list of things that they checked, all ticked off. The only specifics are tyre wear. I haven't checked them today, but it does say left front 4mm outer, 4mm middle, 4mm inner. I don't think it's worn down that far. Either way, there's not an issue. And brakes, as we know, you've seen the videos, guys, I changed my own brakes, and I changed them about 10,000 miles ago. I did 47,000 miles probably on the first set of brakes, and it says that we've done 25% wear on the front and 20% on the rear. So yeah, probably about right. And the final document is just somewhere to record any bodywork damage, of which there was none. So that kind of completes this episode. Executive summary: there's a few more niggles on the vehicle than there has been in the past. Nothing that stops it running, nothing that stops it doing its job, but niggles all the same. The corrosion on the chassis narks me. You know, brand new, I know exactly what's happened to that vehicle. It's not been abused. It gets cleaned regularly. So that's rather disappointing. The rest of it, design faults, if I'm honest, mainly design faults. The infotainment system is the thing that is letting it down and is breaking down, but it's intermittent. Intermittent faults are hard to fix, and I'm pretty sure it's a fundamental thing. Maybe it was listening to too many Bluetooth devices, or it got confused, it needed a hard reset. Wherever it is, it's a bit flaky. So I will come back to you with more reviews and reports shortly. I will definitely be filming what I do with the light bar, because now I've got the actual bar on and stopped it from whistling. I can move to the next step of getting my lights, installing them on the bar, working out how to get the wiring, relays, switches, etc. into the vehicle in a safe, really neat way. And I will not be drilling a hole in the roof of my cab. So hopefully you guys will tune in and have a look to see how that gets done if you're interested in fitting lights, spotlights, light bars, etc. then I can share that with you. And as soon as anything else goes wrong, I'm going to start recording those moment by moment now, because I don't know how long I'll have the vehicle. My internal logic says that I've owned it from new. I should move it on at the sort of 70 or 80,000 mile mark, because in a lot of people's head there's a thing that clicks over. 90 is nearly 100. 100 is properly old. It's not bad for a commercial vehicle, but I'm more used to private cars, and I know that goes on in people's heads. So to get best value for it, in my mind, it needs to go at the 70 to 80,000 mile mark. So please subscribe, give us a thumbs up. Love to hear your comments. How have you got on with services? What faults have you been having with your reasonably new NP300 Navaras? Should I go for the Toyota Hilux? Don't know. Let us know what you think, and I'll see you again onto the garage real soon.